Well, another day and another scandal for Keir Starmer. And this time he is trying to bury this one, as critics are stating that this really could be the end of the Prime Minister. The more information that comes out about Keir Starmer and the China spy case, the worse it gets. He lied, he compromised, and he's a genuine threat to national security. This is an incredibly huge scandal, and to say the word huge is probably an understatement. We're going to be diving in to it all, going through what the critics are saying this morning in video format, and going through with regard to Keir Starmer. It's quite serious. But for those of you who want to know what's happened in sort of layman terms, if you like, essentially, China sent spies to Britain. They got arrested, Labour covered for them, and then collapsed the trial. Labour denied it, and now we've basically got like MI6 ex-civil service chiefs, which are calling Starmer a liar publicly. So it is a pretty big scandal, believe it or not, and we're going to be diving into more details and some of the reaction in today's video, as always, in sort of video format, watching and reacting together. Not only that, in today's live stream, we're also going to be discussing some more with regard to Humza Yousaf. A certain thing has come up with regard to him, as he's launched the Muslim Impact Forum and basically stated it's his goal to get more Muslims into positions of power within the United Kingdom. Yeah, interesting. We're going to get into that in the second part of today's live stream, whilst also going over the latest on the Manchester terror attack, as someone that was released on bail for terror offences, by the way, has been re-arrested. So yeah, quite a few bits and pieces to go over this morning. But guys, as always, please do hit the like button and hit the subscribe button for more content. But let's jump over to X, as always, guys, and go through what has been said on this situation with regard to the scandal that could, or is being said, that could bring down the Labour government. It's very, very serious. Let's go over to X, shall we? So yes, boom, up, and let's have a little watch of this video. This will explain it very, very well.
Breaking right now. According to the Daily Telegraph, Jonathan Powell, who's the head of national security, suppressed a major Whitehall investigation into Chinese spying after lobbying from the Treasury. This is the latest, really very serious development in this China spy scandal that is threatening to bring down this government. Powell decided in June that the government would not publish details about Beijing's espionage from the Foreign Office's own China audit. His decision came after the Treasury said that releasing information from the comprehensive analysis of China's influence in Britain could damage trade and investment links. The audit, promised in Labour's manifesto, became just 2 paragraphs in Powell's national security strategy. Wow. Huge news. This is the scandal that could bring down the Labour government. Christopher Cash and Christopher Berry were both accused of spying for China. They were arrested under the Official Secrets Act in March 2023. They were charged with espionage offences on the 22nd of April, weeks before Sir Keir Starmer becomes Prime Minister. They always denied the charges, and they continue to deny the charges. But then, on the 15th of September, the charges were dropped, apparently because Labour did not want to say that China was a national security threat. Sir Keir Starmer, who's conveniently jetted off to India, blamed the Tories.
You have to prosecute people on the basis of the circumstances at the time of the alleged offence. And so all the focus needs to be on the policy of the Tory government in place then. That's the only...
Always gaslighting is Keir, always gaslighting, but it's going to come a little bit more with regard to him in a moment, and then you can see that he's definitely complicit. And we're going to get into the reaction from the Tories as well, by the way, which literally tries and outlines him as an absolute liar and an absolute fraud.
The only place that the evidence could be focused on.
But now, this does not appear to be true. Governments and our intelligence services have repeatedly described China as a national security threat. And that revelation I brought you just at the top of this segment would indicate that this government was also acutely aware of the national security threat that China poses. And according to that, chose to suppress it. In 2023, the Tories described China as, quote, a threat to our people, prosperity and security. But look, don't take my word for it when it comes to being a little bit squiffy about all of this. The ex-head of MI6, Sir Richard Dearlove, he's spoken out, contradicting Sir Keir Starmer. The Director of Public Prosecutions, Stephen Parkinson, has. Former Cabinet Secretary and Head of National Security, Lord Sedwill, has. And the former Head of the Civil Service, Simon Case. They have all come out and said, in a roundabout way, that they don't buy Sir Keir Starmer's excuses. And now more is emerging by the day. Sir Keir Starmer's National Security Advisor is that man called Jonathan Powell. And it turns out that he has held extensive meetings with Chinese communists personally and involving an organisation that he founded called Intermediate. This was revealed on Guido Fawkes earlier today. Chancellor Rachel Reeves inexplicably went to China whilst our economy was crashing here. Energy Secretary Ed Miliband went to China, signed a secret Green Deal. We are not allowed to know what was in that deal. And the Chagos Islands surrender. We were told that it was all about international law. Who helped to make that law? Well, it was Zhu Hanqin, a former official for the Chinese Communist Party. Who stands to benefit most from this Chagos deal? It's China, because they basically use Mauritius as a proxy state. Now, let's just remind ourselves of all of those big hitters who say that Sir Keir Starmer isn't being entirely honest about this China spy case. You've got the ex-head of MI6, you've got the Director of Public Prosecutions, you've got the former head of the Civil Service, you've got the former head of National Security. Do you believe them? Or do you believe the man who has repeatedly been accused of dishonesty? Sir Keir Starmer. I mean, he couldn't even be honest about this.
Now, soon after I became an MP, I went to Oldham for a by-election up there. I was taken to a street to meet a woman who I was told had strong views on immigration. I knocked on the door. She invited me in. We had a cup of tea and a rich tea biscuit.
Well, it turns out that he actually called her a racist. She booted him out of her house and then vowed to never vote Labour again. She testified to that, both in print and on GB News. In my view, there are two possible explanations to what's going on here. Number one, keeping China happy instead of prioritising our national security. Number two, that this government is in some way compromised by the Chinese communists. Now, there are very serious questions to answer as to whether or not our government is really working for us.
Well, there you go. I mean, that is pretty big. That is huge. And I mean, a lot of social media right now is of course, talking about it. They're going to get some more video reaction on this and see what people are saying. But yeah, better not must go out all on PMQs next week. Have all evidence ready to spin Starmer down for his lies over the China spy case. All backbenchers, get ready with your questions. We are sick of seeing him wriggle off the hook. Bring Starmer down. Now, no way that this guy can... I mean, he's great. He's doing scandal after scandal, week after week, but he tries to lie his way out of it. And now, sort of big people, whether it be leaders of the MI6, have came out and actually doxed him publicly and said that he's a liar. And this is going to continue. So it's a massive, massive scandal here. It really, really is. And this is what Chris Philp said with regard to it. So Keir Starmer said that the last government did not categorise China as a threat. That is direct and easily disprovable lie. It is now clear from the DPP's most recent letter that the Starmer government deliberately withheld cooperation and evidence from the CPS that caused an espionage trial to collapse. This has enabled those accused of spying for China to avoid prosecution. The Starmer government has prioritised appeasing China for economic reasons above national security. Keir Starmer must urgently answer if they authorised the refusal to fully cooperate with the CPs and provide them the evidence that they needed. Love him or hate him, Trump gets stuff done. That's there. But we're seeing it in real time. I've got another video for you guys with regard to this morning, and then we're going to get on to Hamza Yusuf. But again, people seem to believe that this will sink Starmer's premiership. They do believe that this could be the end of him. However, he has managed to wriggle out a lot of things over the last few years. Have a watch of this.
I wish to have to work harder. Anyway, it's a scandal week for the Prime Minister in recent months. But is this the one that could sink his premiership. Two former top civil servants have now publicly questioned the Prime Minister's decision after the collapse of a major Chinese espionage case. Sir Keir is accused of allowing Britain's national security to be compromised in favour of diplomatic relations with China. But despite the Prime Minister trying to blame the previous government's failure to label China as a threat, Sir Simon Case and Lord Sedwell, Lord Case as he now is, both former Cabinet Secretaries, said they have long warned of Chinese threats. So can the Prime Minister be trusted on the most important issue of all, national security? Well, I'm joined now by China commentator and author of Chinese Urban Revolution, Austin Williams. Mr. Williams, thank you very much for joining me. This is very serious, isn't it? The appearance of a government failure to assist the Crown Prosecution Service.
Well, I do think that there's a little bit over hype in some of this conversation, because obviously Starmer has got a lot to answer for, whether it's the whole issue of trampling the economy or trampling over civil liberties in general. And this story itself seems to have bypassed the essence of the story, which is of two individuals who seem to have been passing over information to a foreign state. And then the conversation then moved on to being one of talking about whether the Official Secrets Act itself mentioned enemy state, which it does, and China was not designated to be an enemy state. And therefore, we seem to be caught up in very much a technical, legalistic kind of definitional world, which obviously Starmer is very used to. This is his forte, playing with technical legal matters. But in some respects, it also seems as if this is now something to do with backroom public prosecution mandarins seem to be at the core of this conversation, almost marginalizing the Tory party, who actually were in government when these two were actually carrying out their espionage, and Starmer, who is now being seen to be slapped down for not actually prosecuting them. So something is going on behind the scenes, which is obviously doubly problematic in as much as they're not revealing much of the information. So we've been kept a little bit in the dark as to the reality of the conversation.
Yes, and it is important that the two cabinet secretaries and Sedwell, who of course was the security advisor himself as well, have come out and said that actually it was clear that China was designated as a threat under the Conservatives. There's the judgment in the Bulgarian case that seemed to lower the bar for definition of an enemy down to a country viewed as a security threat. And therefore this excuse that in 2023, when the crimes took place, China wasn't deemed in the 1911 Act's terms an enemy seems to me to be pretty spurious.
Well, it's game playing, isn't it? I mean, I think that some lawyer must be rubbing his hands with glee, having found that clause hidden away in the document. I mean, I suppose the other irony, which you may be aware of, I'm sure, is that the Official Secrets Act itself from 1911 was actually superseded in December 2023 with the National Security Act, and the crimes themselves, in very commas, were committed during 2023 prior to that kind of handover. So there's a kind of a strange something is happening which is not political, which is behind closed doors. But I do think that obviously the West, Britain, does deals, does trade, consorts with all kinds of regimes, whether it's Qatar, whether it's recognizing Palestine and Hamas. Which you wouldn't have thought would be necessarily a friendly state, all the way through to the European Union. We've been dealing with them for donkey's years. So I think that there's ways and ways and ways that we can actually recognize.
Well, the thing is here, could he actually be sunk over this? I mean, we're seeing it. It's a pretty big scandal that's erupting, of course, now on everywhere. Everybody's talking about it, and I don't feel how he can really get himself out of this. He's just literally been pulled out publicly for lying multiple times now. I mean, he gets called out all of the time, but sort of top brass in big positions are calling him a liar publicly as he tried to sort of bury this story. And he also has, this is a serious thing and a threat to sort of national security. And Labour in covering things up do really very much go hand in hand together. They really, really do. Now, moving away from this story, guys, I wanted to talk about this. And I've seen this come up this morning, and we're going to go through this together with regard to Humza Yousaf. But essentially, Humza, everybody's favourite, obviously the guy that absolutely hates white people, has came out and launched his new Muslim Impact Forum. States its goals are simply to get more Muslims into positions of power within the United Kingdom. Like we want that. Want to connect wealthy donors with young Muslims to fund their move into politics. And as this user is saying, this is sectarian, dangerous, and should be outlawed. Imagine just going to Pakistan and saying we're going to get more white Christians into positions of power within the within Pakistan. It is mental. Look, he's launched this himself. Let's have a little listen to some of the shit that he said during this launch here, Humza Yousaf.
I would say hand on heart now that we are at a tipping point in this country, and it's reflected in other countries as well, where we either try and do something different, to try and self-organize Muslims, to represent ourselves better, to use our resources better, and to influence the countries that we live in better than we have done already. Brother Humza is a relatively rare and unique political talent. Actually, we need many more people like him at the top of government, in every government, in this country, across the 4 nations, and in other governments, that can influence, sit at the top table and make a difference on behalf of the Muslims. I would say hand on heart.
Sit on the top table to make decisions that better represent Muslims. He's also a good leader, apparently, in his eyes. Bullshit. He's a fucking terrible leader, and he's always talking about division. He's talking about all this and sort of division that's created by the far right. He's creating division, and they're trying to get his own people into positions of power that can make decisions represented towards him. Now, if you just go on his X page, you can look at where Humza Yousaf's beliefs and values stand, and where he is as a person and what he believes in. And as they're saying, they're sat at a tipping point and must take power in the UK. This is like a call for like overthrowing the establishment, essentially, to try and indoctrinate it and try and implement their views and beliefs within inside our parliament. This is not even getting the attention it deserves. In this bit, apparently, they make it very clear that the next generation is to take over the country. 50% of Muslims in the UK are under the age of 25, 33% are under the age of 15. Let's have a listen to this bit.
In this country, there are 4 million Muslims, and that number is growing fast. But of those 4 million, 50% are under the age of 25. 1/3 are actually under the age of 15. In this country, there are...
Wowzers. Yeah, so this is who's on the border. I spoke. First Lady of First Lady of Turkey, Erdogan, Humza Yousaf. I mean, look at all of these. Wow. What's he saying here? They proudly say they have people everywhere.
We have amongst our numbers entrepreneurs, business owners, NGOs, charities, philanthropists, social activists, politicians, media, journalists, and so much more.
So what this is essentially trying to get people who are Muslim into the top positions of power, into politics. Now, I seen once this thing by ballot or bullet. Actually, I seen on social media before, ballot or bullet, in terms of the new way of sort of jihad that is happening in the United Kingdom. I'll just try and find this video again. To be fair, I probably should have better organised it. But essentially, they said by ballot or bullet, we're going to get ourselves into sort of power within the sort of Western countries. Let's have a little look. Ballot or bullet. I'm sure it was a video. Gotta be careful next, because some things just freaking pop up on here without you knowing. You need to be careful. Here we go. This.
Now it's getting through Congress. So before it was by the sword. Now it's getting themselves into Parliament and then making laws that act as the sword, the Islamophobia law in Canada, M103.
Yeah.
Muslim Brotherhood.
I find that there are only 2 things which are open to our movements. Ballot or bullet, nothing in between.
I used to say that democracy is haram. Now I say participation in democracy is our jihad.
That's our jihad. We're going to fight not through the bullets, but the ballots.
Going to the ballot and voting is now an obligatory action, fard ayn. And it is a jihad that is now needs to be done because this is our modern jihad. You can elect a person who wants the Sharia.
Because in the United States, what we do know is that in the past election, just this last election, there have been over 800 Muslim candidates running for office.
We may end up with about 50 members of Congress in the next 6 years. That's really the essence of dismantling the system of injustice, is to replace it with the people who represent the Prophet ﷺ.
So, as you can see in their own terms here, it's by the sort of bullet. This was for the Muslim Brotherhood. We have two options how to implement Sharia in America, ballot or bullet, nothing in between. So they've just came out and said this is the new sort of jihad, if you like. And now you're seeing sort of people like Hamza Yusuf come out with this new thing. And you hear them publicly saying about wanting to get people into big positions.
Tipping point in this country, and it's reflected in other countries as well, where we either try and do something different to try and self-organize Muslims, to represent ourselves better, to use our resources better, and to influence the countries that we live in better than we have done already. Brother Hamza is a relatively rare and unique political talent. Actually, we need many more people like him at the top of government, in every government, in this country, across the 4 nations, and in other governments, that can influence, sit at the top table and make a difference on behalf of.
So influence, sit on the top of the table. Sit on the top of the table. We're seeing this in real time. You know, you just seen the sort of remit from the Muslim Brotherhood that we just showed you in the last video. Now Hamza Yusuf launches this, he's a part of this. And this guy is saying that we need to influence more positions of power within the UK. Get more people in political positions. Why? Bonkers. This is happening in real time. I'm interested to see people's thoughts and opinions on this because, again, it's probably not really going to be talked about too much. But, you know, it's in real time that we're seeing this. This is absolute bonkers and really, really scary stuff, actually. Just look at Hamza Yusuf's X page and his views will be there for all to see on what he thinks. Remember his famous speech in the sort of Scottish Parliament talking about how many white people were in positions of power within Scotland. Yeah, that's what he's all about. Do let me know your thoughts on this in the live chat, guys. We are going to get to the live chat in a moment. Just got one more story to discuss, and that's with regard to this, actually, funnily enough. A man arrested and released over Manchester synagogue attack is rearrested at the city's airport. So essentially the Manchester terror attack happened. There was the guy who obviously carried it out. However, they arrested one guy on the day there. A man who was arrested and released without charge over the Manchester synagogue attack has been rearrested at the city's airport. So this happened yesterday. The 30-year-old was detained at 12:34 p.m. on Thursday on suspicion of failing to disclose information about an act of terrorism. So bearing in mind, people like Lucy Connolly didn't get bail for Facebook posts or Twitter posts. But this guy, a part of a terrorist attack, was managed to be released, but now has been rearrested again because he didn't disclose information about terrorism. Yeah. The unnamed suspect had been arrested on the 2nd of October on suspicion of the commission, preparation and instigation of acts of terrorism following the terror attack in Manchester last week. Following his arrest at the Manchester airport on Thursday, the man has since been released on bail with conditions. So now in the UK, you have guys that have been released on bail. So he knows about stuff and didn't disclose information with regard to a terrorist attack, which sent 2 Jewish people killed. Obviously, the guys that there, obviously inflicting terror, could have been a whole lot worse as well. And we know that Jihad al-Shami called 999, pledging allegiance to the Islamic State terror group. So they covered that up in terms of the information that they knew. They let the day roll out. They didn't talk about it being Islamic terrorism. They didn't talk about anything to do with Islam with regard to the terror attack, trying to sort of cover it up. And we've seen what the mainstream media have tried to do in terms of speaking about the attack. Now, they rearrested someone because he didn't disclose things about acts of terrorism. And all of a sudden, this guy's released now, again, on bail with conditions. So he's just allowed to cut about again. we really don't learn anything, do we, as a country? We really, really don't. It's super frustrating. But as you can see, there's a clear double standards at play. And there's more information that comes out about this guy as well. You know, had 3 sort of wives, whatnot, obviously calling 999 to pledge allegiance to ISIS, but that information wasn't released after the attack or straight away. And then all of a sudden, yeah, you got tits like Gary Neville coming out and blaming it on middle-aged white men that are creating division. Yeah, Gary, that's really exactly what it is. One absolute bellend. And again, this is why no one has trust in this Labour government. No one has a trust in the establishment, because they're constantly trying to cover up and withhold information that is key. Let's get into the live chat, ladies and gentlemen. I'm interested to know your thoughts on all of what we've discussed in today's live stream. I hope you're doing all well on this, what day are we on now? Friday? Yeah, I hope you're doing all well on this Friday, troops. But yeah, let's get into the live chat. We did get a lot of super chats, so I'm going to go through them quickly. Oz, I do see you. Thank you so much for all of your donations. We'll get to your messages right this second. Oz donated 5 Australian dollars. Thank you, Oz. China is our biggest enemy, not just the UK. Under Labour government, we have nothing left. Thank you for your donation. But true. Very, very true. For goodness sake, stop voting for any kind of Muslim candidates, all of the same. Yeah, well, the thing with the Hamza Yusuf thing, this should really cause a bit of alarm and distress. You know, this individual, I mean, they're just seen there in that interview stating on what they want to do. They want to get more people in places of power within Parliament. And that sort of echoes what the Muslim Brotherhood said, by ballot or bullet. We want to be able to influence and be in the top positions. Well, what do you want to influence? What sort of things do you want to start saying? What sort of things do you want to, what laws do you want to start implementing? What do you want to start doing to the country? What sort of things do you want to change within the country? I don't get it. And actually, to be honest with you, it's very frightening. It's something that should not be ignored. But thank you so much for your 5 Australian dollars. Civil Defence here donates £5, says 1 in every Muslim in the UK are on the watch list. I don't know if that's fact, but thank you so much for your donation. I'll certainly look into those statistics. Another one. Oh, so very generous of you. Thank you very much. Stop supporting Ben Habib, for goodness sake. Another Pakistani. Well, I do think Ben Habib does have, I don't know what his religious beliefs are. I know he obviously stems from sort of Pakistan or whatnot, but I do think he has the UK's best interest at heart at this moment in time. But I do like Ben Habib and what he's all about. But thank you so much for, again, another donation. So generous of you. Really, really is. We've got another donation here from Defendi Nosin Perillo. He donates £5, or she donates £5, saying the left still refuses to see and hear the truth. The left is the cause of this. Never let them forget it. Facts. Absolute facts. The left are complicit in our downfall as a nation. You know, whilst they see all this mess currently going around in the country, they are complicit. They're the ones that create this. They're the ones that sort of vote for these lunatics to come into power. And again, they want to see the demographic change. They want to see this sort of invasion as such in our country and destroy our culture. But yeah, the left wing are very, 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 very dangerous. And as we said, and we've seen in the aftermath of Charlie Kirk, you know, left-wing terrorism is something that has often been ignored by the establishments and the powers that be. Thank you very much for your donation there. Very, very generous of you. Debbie coming in clutch again as always, sends 5 British Stand gift memberships. Thank you very much. And towards the members actually, for you, I feel bad because I haven't really been doing too much for the members as such, but we're bringing in things for the members. I've got a documentary that we've built out that I'm going to be posting on there tonight or probably tomorrow for the members. Yeah, quite a lot of money that went into it. It's with regard to Axel Rudabagana, actually, and a real deep dive and a bit of a teaser for what's to come in the membership section. But yeah, it's not me commentating on it. spent a lot of money on the editing. We spent a lot of money on the actual storytelling of it, but it's a very long documentary, 25 minutes, but yeah, really, really, really good. Yeah, we're pretty proud of it. So we're going to be releasing that to the members as well to say thank you. So thank you very much for all of the members that we have here. 5 Australian dollars again here from Oz. Really, really generous. Thank you so much, Oz. You're really, really generous. Thank you. 5 Australian dollars saying, war is over, pack your Palestine flag and go home. No, we've seen... yeah, well, still after this, for some reason, I don't know why, but we've got a few sort of left-wing people that I know from sort of school. And actually, I'll have a look at this post here quickly. So I sent it to my brother because I found it really, really funny. So this kid this guy shared a post saying, even if the new ceasefire agreement holds, the fight for Palestinian liberation is not over until the occupation and apartheid are ended, until no Palestinian is starved or malnourished, until the thousands of illegally imprisoned Palestinians are released. Are they talking about the ones that committed the October 7th attacks? I think they are. And Gaza's rebuilt. Palestinians can safely return back to Palestine and full reparations are paid. Until Zionists are de-radicalized, until settler colonialism is ended, until all human beings from the river to the sea live freely and equitably with full human rights and so much more. If you would like to attend this march on Saturday, give me a message. They're doing another march now, even though a peace deal has been sort of agreed and the war is over, so to speak. They're still going for more. So you're still going to see these protests happening, and these left-wing lunatics are still mobilizing and still trying to still going for more. So now they want sort of full reparations paid, and Palestine to be completely built up again. These guys need to move on to the next subject, and as I said, I highlighted if they want to stop a genocide, they should look to Africa and see what's happening there, and Myanmar. That one's done, and it was nothing to do with Greta. It was to do with Donald Trump, but they will not want to, of course, acknowledge Donald Trump being the man who actually ended the war. John C donates £2 saying, buy Gary Neville a box of sanitary towels. You're right, isn't it, idiot? Oh, Oz again. Jesus, Oz, thank you. Thank you so much for another donation. Keep up the great work, British Stand. I love your channel. Thank you so much. Thank you for your generosity, by the way. You really have been such a lovely subscriber and really, really are helping support the channel. So thank you very much for that. Another donation here from Wolfie says, Australian government rolling out the Social Cohesion Act silence. Anyone who criticises the government agenda can go to jail when it comes in. FML. I need to follow up on what's going on in Australia. I'm hearing a lot of things with what you're saying with their sort of law implementations. Again, I'm sure they've probably got a left-wing government out there in Australia as well. But yeah, I should take a little look into see what's happening in Australia as well. But certainly probably aligned with what the UK are like and what Canada are like. Facts. Let's go through some non-super chats here from everybody. We've got something from Masonic Brother. Also Gary Neville talking about him. He should never, ever be rich off the back of us again. Well, to be fair to him, look, on away from football, I'm not one of those people that say that footballers shouldn't be paid high. I think it's a skill, and if there's a demand for a skill, then you should be paid what you get. Football makes a lot of money, and obviously the players that are contributing to football should obviously get paid the money that they're getting. The pay that they get is reflected on the demand of people watching and viewing their stuff. So yeah, I don't mind that, but now the fact that he's came out and turned on people whilst in a position where on Sky Sports, where if you ever spoke about anything else on live television, your position would be untenable. But when you go against what the sort of the mainstream media like, then you were rewarded. So if you go against what the mainstream media's propaganda is, so if he said a trans comment, he'd be cancelled. He'd be off the screens. If he stated a biological fact like they did on Big Brother the other day, then you'd be off. You'd be given a verbal warning. You'd be taken off the screens, despite stating fact. But if you go against the people that the mainstream media is in favour of you going against, then all of a sudden you'll be rewarded for it and nothing wrong would happen to you, despite the main target audience being who he was begrudging and who he was putting down. That's an issue also. Starmer must go to prison today. Well, I don't see how he survives this, in all honesty. I mean, he's gone through scandal after scandal since coming into sort of power. He manages to sort of wriggle his way out of almost everything. To be honest, nothing really comes in his way. And yeah, that's one of those things. And he's managed to wriggle his way out, and he'll continue to wriggle his way out until we make a stand. But I'm interested to see what happens at Prime Minister's questions with regard to him. But we'll certainly find out if he does manage to get out of it. But guys, thank you so much for tuning in. We've got plenty of content as the day goes on, plenty of revelations that come out. But do let me know your thoughts on the things that we've discussed in today's live stream. That, of course, being Starmer in China, Hamza Yusuf and this sort of new Muslim forum, and then, of course, the latest on the Manchester terror attack as well. If you enjoyed today, make sure you hit like and subscribe. We're on our way to 300,000 subscribers. And I want to say a big shout out to all the donators today. I don't take that for granted whatsoever. So thank you so much for your lovely super chats, your kind words. And I really appreciate you. So thank you all again. Oz, top donator today.